Hey, hello everyone.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hey, hi Praveen, hi Nazim, hi Shailendra, sir. Yeah. All right. So while we have a few more attendees joining in, those who are already a part of the webinar, yeah, please say hi. Tell us where are you all joining from. This is Priya, by the way. I work as community manager at Astra Security. Uh, please say hi in the chat. Where are you all joining from? Hi, Praveen. Awesome. So, yeah, cool. So, while we, like, before I introduce you all to the speaker of the session today, just a quick uh, brief about uh, the community and Astra Security. So, for that, I am going to share my screen real quick. Uh, just a second. Yeah, can you see my screen, Bina? Just give me a thumbs up if you can.
It's just blank at this moment.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right, everyone. So, first of all, thank you, everyone, for joining in. Uh, Before I introduce you all to the speaker of today's session, just wanted to let you know the topic that we will be touching upon today. So the topic is called Deepfakes Data and Delivery Apps from 2025 Wake Up Security Wake Up Calls to 2026 Action Plans. With our speaker Veena Jairaj, who's the Deputy Information Security Officer at Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages Private Limited. And a few topics that we will be touching upon are the privacy awareness and its impact on security strategy, why third party vendors are one of the biggest attack surfaces nowadays, cyber risks in FMCG, since Veena comes with a lot of experience in from the FMCG industry. So we're going to have a lot of insights around that. Machine speed threats like deepfakes and phishing. I'm really interested in knowing about phishing. I've heard phishing a lot, but really curious to know about phishing. And then we have allocated the last 20 minutes of the session for live Q&A. So if any of you have questions that you want to ask Veena, feel free to drop them in the chat box. Yeah, a quick brief about the 403 Circle. So we have this uh, like tight-knit community of cybersecurity leaders on WhatsApp and Slack with over 350 CTOs, CISOs, and tech leaders. Then we do a lot of community initiatives and events such as city-wise meetups, roundtables, and expert-led sessions. The one that you're attending right now. Uh, and then we have community channels where members can ask questions and share their insights. So I will ask my teammate Pratisha to drop the link in the chat for the community. And if you want to be a part of it, you can apply. A quick brief about Astra. So at Astra, we are building a continuous pen test platform that helps over 1,000 organizations continuously scan their infrastructure for security vulnerabilities. we will keep sharing the link to our website in the chat box. So if you want to know anything at all about Astra, so please do check out the website. Then I really like how my teammate Tisha has added Coca-Cola's can
It's
next.
really nice.
Yeah. That's very nice, Pratisha. So, Veena, as you all know, is the Deputy Information Security Officer at Hindustan Coca-Cola, where she leads cybersecurity strategy and governance. And uh, beyond technology, Veena actively fosters a strong security culture, leading training and phishing awareness programs. And she told me that she is super passionate about about today's topic. So I'm sure we are going to take away a lot of insights from this. A quick flow of the event. This is a fireside chat where I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to Veena around the topic. Then the session is being recorded and the recording will be made available post the event. And the live Q&A session with the audience will happen towards the end of the session. So that's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for joining again. I'll stop sharing my screen now and begin the session. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Veena, again. Thanks for agreeing to do this. How are you doing today?
All good. Thanks for inviting me, Priya, and the Astra team.
Our pleasure. Uh, all right. So, Veena, so, since the topic is about security, and growing awareness, right? Let's start with the mistakes that let's start with the mistakes, right? So you know there's a lot of security awareness which is happening all around the organizations now. What is that one common mistake that you still see security professionals and even leaders or security teams make when it comes to protecting their data?
I would like to put it this way. If you're a security professional, generally you do tend to take care of a lot of things. But if you're not, when you look at it from an organization perspective, generally not everybody takes security as a culture. To imbibe that is a very difficult thing because it generally has to be from a top-down approach. Bottom-up approach is people who are passionate. You kind of see them as evangelists, right? And we, security professionals who want to spread the awareness, we kind of catch them and disseminate that information in the circles that they have influence for. So, in some ways, the biggest mistake people make is given to the urgency. So one of the fundamental things how you fall prey is when an attack happens, either personally or at a professional level, it creates a sense of urgency that you have to respond. Be it a link that comes on your WhatsApp, or be it an email that has come, which is impersonating a superior and expecting a quick turnaround on something that probably has given you a gut feel, right? Saying that maybe this is not the right thing to do, but we still tend to give it in because there's one mind logic which says you can trust it. So this is one thing that I feel many people who aren't adequately aware given to these, and then they fall prey or victim to a particular trap. So
Got
it
it.
could
Yeah.
move from, yeah, like I said, it could be WhatsApp, email. I mean, nowadays the means are very, very different. Social media, advertisements, you can name it, and everybody is weaponizing them.
Yeah, true. And from an organizational lens, do you feel companies in India are truly preparing for these rising privacy expectations, or are they mostly like reacting when something goes wrong?
Um, Privacy as a awareness, Indians quite lack it, quite honestly, because one, unless it becomes a law, and we're still learning how to adopt it into the enterprises, unless you're a global entity. Um, it is very difficult to bring this culture about. Again, I'll speak a bit about culture because once it is ingrained in a person, because human is the first prey, right? Your victim,
Yeah.
or whom you target, right? So if a human in the loop of this target is not quite aware, then you're most likely to be a victim at an enterprise level. How do we see privacy in the organizations generally? We are struggling, honestly, because one, the compliance means one thing to one enterprise. I'm in a B2B business, somebody's in a B2C business, somebody's in a finance business. So compliance means differently to different people. And to what extent they need to be compliant when they touching the end customer versus touching sensitive information. Um, from a privacy point of view, it becomes very, very different. I wouldn't, even for that matter, we should not be overlooking institutions like schools, colleges, and things like that, because now we're um, uh, protecting their data as well. That is also in digital form, right? So it means differently to different people. Now, can I use your data for marketing? Today, we are freely using it because we're not taking any consent as such. So the moment you've shared your data with me, I am free to use it however I choose to better my business, to better my sales, or share it with my competitor, so on and so forth. So yes, we are still struggling in the baselines, cultivating that baselines, stricter baselines for us to adhere to. We're still there.
Yeah, yeah. And like talking about vendor security, right? A lot of recent breaches have uh, like actually have not actually originated within the company, but through third party vendors and integrations. And there isn't any company which is not working with a vendor, right? Or doesn't
Right,
have any
right.
integrations going on, right? So what do you think organizations are still struggling to get third party risk management right?
Um, Third party risk management starts with the way I see it, starts with how you onboard them, right? Before I onboard a particular third party, what are the things that I take care? Uh, First of all, it starts with me assessing a couple. Let's say I've floated out a RFP. I'm scouting out vendors, right? When I'm scouting out vendors, there are a couple of vendors who reach out to me. And when they do reach out to me, what are the first things that I want to look at, even before it reaches me as a CISO to my table? What are the prerequisites that needs to get done? Before they reach out to me, they should have their financials verified by the procurement team. I would highly recommend that because today there are plenty of startups. The startups are mushrooming in every corner, right? And especially in the cities. But I don't have a history of reliance and trust with them, right? So that becomes my primary reason why I should look at their history. What do they stand for? What are their principles? What is their mission? What is their vision? What value systems do they bring? If I don't have a history for their organization, then I would be a little uh, uh, averse to having them onboarded. One. Second, what is their financial strength? Right? Are they resilient enough that should, like for instance, the DPDP policy came about. Are they resilient enough to
Yeah.
adopt it, adapt to it, and deliver to us as their client? That would be very, very important too. Their security posture. Okay. Usually, what happens is their certificates are published on the website. So, if those are available, are they assessed by assessors who are trustworthy? Not everybody are because there are many people who assess them. Many assessors are available in the market. Whom are they assessed by? What is their
Yeah.
reputation, right? Because these are fundamental building blocks of bringing somebody on board. Okay. Once I bring them on board, of course, we have a few things that we ask, and we ask for some evidences, compliances, and so on and so forth. How you doing this? How you doing that? And we run them through a exhaustive questionnaire with a little bit of evidences and certification and so on. Once we've done that, right, how are they poised to handle the volumes that my company is going to ask them to do, right?
Yeah.
Again, why I say this is you can promise me a lot of things, but do you have the capability, right? You are sometimes very good at playing small. You and maybe the clients whom you're handling may not be in the space where they need a quick turnaround time. I might need a quick turnaround time for that particular product. So if it is customer facing, it's always a quick turnaround time. If it is something else, maybe a learning and development partner, I might not have a quick turnaround time. We can always fix it with time. So these are the things that comes into context when I'm doing an evaluation from my side. Um, it is very important to now see what is your security posture in terms of AI, right?
Mm.
Irrespective of which industry you belong to, which product you're providing to me, AI has become a part of everybody's life. Even in HECP, we have AI being used for many use cases. We also struggle with something for shadow AI. So, how important is it that you are going to ensure my data is not compromised? So what comes into picture is now the legal. Now the legal has to ensure I always have an agreement with the partner on privacy. I should have an agreement for auditability. I should have an agreement in place for indemnity. If I'm not covered on all these points, then it's a risk. And if you're still going to onboard that vendor, it's a risk that you're accepting because there's no way that you can go back and tell them I need to audit your systems. They say we don't. You're not covered in the contract. Those kind of pushbacks. These are very very basic stuff that you have to ensure it is there in place. If these are not in place, yes, even if it is the smallest of the vendor, it's the easiest of the victims through which I can have an attack. I'll even tell you some things like your uh, learning and development, right? Your learning and development teams, if they host the learning, that's good because it's their environment and we just log in. But again, my credentials are used for logging in. Second, if they are sharing files for us to host it, like the Scrum files and so on, they're also prone to have a subtle malicious code or some such thing that can detonate at a later point in time. So my nobody is out of the sphere of being assessed. No vendors out of the sphere of being assessed. I'll even go as far as talking about operational technology, for instance. Third party vendors, OEMs, when I say OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, um, very big brands, okay, and very big names in that space but their systems and their PLCs, SCADAs, and all of those are very, very old. They're very, very stable, which is a good thing, but they're very, very old. What
Mm.
happens is, let's say, for instance, you have an Android phone, right? The more familiar you become with a particular device or an asset, right? You know how to break it. Why that? Why that? Even children today, when they're playing video games, right? And they become very familiar with the video game. Now they know how to break the rules. They know how to find the cheat codes. They know how to win the game, so on and so forth, right? The more you become familiar with a particular asset, that's how vulnerable the risk of vulnerability just goes up. Okay, those are sophisticated systems, no doubt, but they become vulnerable.
Mm.
So AI, your posture, what is the age of that particular device or service I'm taking from them, especially if it is in terms of they hosting my data or I'm taking a particular file from them. In whatever nature it comes, you are mandated to give a certain amount of due diligence in assessing the partner and the content that you're going to take from. It's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, true. And my next question was around, evaluating a new vendor or tool. And I think you've covered some part of it, like the things that you need to look at when you're from a security standpoint when it comes to evaluating a new vendor or tool, right?
Absolutely.
On the flip side, what's a red flag in a vendor that people often overlook but really should not?
In my first assessments, what I do with my partners when they come to me, when the requirement lands at my desk, is have a conversation with them. It's a very initial conversations that we do have first before we get into the deep dive of the questionnaires and other things, is how comfortable they are in answering security related questions. If a vendor is for some reason very hesitant, there are some pointed questions, right? You can just ask one question and it leads to the other, and then you kind of come back to the same question in another way, and you feel that the answers are not matching up, right? It does not give me the comfort of onboarding that vendor. That is something that
Yeah.
you have to do. You're going to live with that vendor a minimum of a year or 6 months or 3 months, the tenure of the engagement that you're going to have with that vendor. And that's enough of a period today in the AI world to compromise, right? Um, I'm sure you agree because your product is for continuous monitoring, right? Today, we are still not there in continuous monitoring for events, for penetration testing or code testing and things like that. Not all of them are, or at least non-crown jewels are not in that space yet, right? So it becomes very important how uh, flexible they are or how reachable they are in terms of me when I'm in trouble. How quickly will they respond to me? Because in an incident, in the first 1 hour, the panic sets in. I don't want to be running helter skelter to find out who is the contact person in my vendor team, right? That's very, very important. Wouldn't you say that if you didn't know the fire brigade number or a police station number in a time of emergency, you do need that, right? And it's a real case scenario for any security event.
Yeah.
So when you are caught in the midst of a fire, a security fire, your vendors are the first ones to be available for you for assessing
Yeah.
what's the turnaround, what's the quick fix, what's the long term fix, what's
Yeah.
the root cause, and so on and so forth. It plays out in the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, absolutely. And like shifting gears to the topic of AI threats, deepfakes, and vishing. I'm sure our audience is quite familiar with AI-driven threats, even deepfakes, which are very common these days. Can you explain what vishing is? I've heard of phishing, but um, if you could tell the audience about vishing.
Right. First, if you are very avid YouTube user, right? The shorts that you see, the YouTube shorts, many of them are AI content, right? Um, I'm a little into looking into kitchen gadgets sometimes, and you can make out. I mean, the rotis are just coming out so beautifully out of a machine, and it kind of looks very synthetic, right? But some of them are such high good quality shots that you kind of like, oh, is this possible? This is going to make my life easy, right? When I look at such kind of things, it is very, very, I mean, AI is now everywhere. Your content creators, your YouTube influencers, they are using AI. They just run the script, they've trained the image, they've trained the voice in such a way that the inflection in your voice, the tone that you use, the way that you deliver a certain particular kind of a topic, it's all trained. Um, if you, I do not want to name the influencer, but one of the influencers who's very objective about our Indian government, but sitting outside of India, if you look at his content, sometimes you are able to make out that this is not him. This is a trained image with a trained voice inflection. Wishing goes just one step ahead without the face, right? So if somebody's trying to, if he's able to deliver that content with the face, with his voice, so well trained, when you don't know who's the person on the other side of your call is, that is wishing, and you're more likely to fall for it. because you are not checking out for red flags like, is the lip syncing with the voice, with the tone, uh, is the expression looking wrong? Sometimes when you're talking, why do we say face to face makes a lot of difference when you're
Yeah.
trying to negotiate, right? This happens more frequently on the voice. Um, and with this generation, Gen AI, it's very conversational. It doesn't have to be you choose from the menu. When a call comes like that, you're not choosing from a menu. You're saying, "Oh my God, what happened?" And it is responding to your tone, your
Yeah.
urgency. It's
True.
creating that, and it is building on it on the fly. It's not that it has to be trained. So that's how uh, um, really the threats today are, which we are battling. There has been one, and surprisingly, these things are free tools, right? And when you use free tools, we are battling against free tools. Anybody in any age group can be trying it for fun, right? And you don't
Yeah.
really know whether it is for a purpose to make you a victim for a monetary gain or reputational damage, or it's just for fun. There's no way of knowing it unless you've investigated. So we are in the business of investigating on things like this, where we invest on our products, or I invest in certain kind of tools which help me, fight off these things. But this is not limited to enterprises. I want to go one step ahead when I talk about culture, right? We need to build this culture in every household. The age groups who are very vulnerable to these kind of attacks are really the geriatric, the old, and the very young. So
Yeah.
who doesn't have access to mobile these days, right? I've seen some of my colleagues who had a child 2 years, 3 years. They distract them, giving the mobile and feeding them. So it has become part of it. With a mobile is our extended human organ, which is just outside manifesting in different versions, Android and iOS, and you can name it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody falls for it sometime or the other. Nobody is above it, but awareness minimizes the risk. That's very important. So
Yeah.
when we talk about these things, where generally when I do spread awareness in my organization, my content is for you as an individual, as an employee, and for you as an individual in the family or a social setup. So I give them both this
Yeah.
context. Recently, very interestingly, I had this conversation with, we are doing the DPTP implementation, right? I was having a very tough team who are very reluctant to adopt. They're like, no, this is going to impact my operations. Why do I have to go this extra mile and so on? I said, you are entrusting your children's data in an institution like school or college. If they compromised it, how would you like it? Right?
Mm.
Today, we are in the era trying to establish a concept called digital trust, right? And that's very, very important. It's become imperative. Important is still one dose low, but imperative. It has to be inculcated from the very beginning. Um, just to draw a parallel, it's a little out of context. When children were being victimized on good touch, bad touch kind of a thing, today children have to be sensitized on the way they use the gadgets. Very, very important, because
Yeah.
as parents, we may feel very victimized, we may feel very helpless when such things happen to them. Until very recently, nobody knew what was digital arrest, and they thought it was a real thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And people have fallen victim to it. And today, there is so much awareness. There's nothing called digital arrest. And if somebody is trying to impersonate and make you victim for it, it's a digital way of victimizing you. So there's awareness. But when it first started, we should have had some more media talking about these kind of things. Um, the easiest way to reach out to anybody generally is, what is the maximum media content that viewers in a country are spending time on? Is it the gaming apps? Is it the content like your dramas and things like that? Is it a content for learning? Is it the content for scrolling? Is it the content for products? All of them, if they had inculcated some bit of security into them as content creators or as product providers, I think the awareness could have been much more. But somehow that kind of a mindset is still not developed in India.
Yeah.
So we do CSRs, right? I'm just going to take this topic up a little more because it is very, very broad, and I want to cover a few things. When we do CSRs in outside of the cities, even in the border of the cities, we tend to take consent. Until now, though, we've taken written consent, and they're like, "Sir, we don't need this." In their local language, we have taken consent, huh? In their vernacular language, and they say, "No, no, no, it's okay. You take our photo. No, 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 it's okay. You do this." They are not aware. As corporates, we need to spread that awareness,
Yeah.
right? And our content, which goes on any of our social media channels or YouTube or any other places where we advertise, if there's a person involved, their consent is definitely taken. Now it comes with a little more caveat. How long can I have that consent valid for? What purpose have I taken? And so on and so forth. But we've always taken a consent so far. So that is something that when I said global entities are somewhat aware, local entities are not that quite aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And like these days, a lot of you know, uh, like phishing attacks happen when you get you might get a call from your CEO asking for something urgent, right? So, like, do you think, uh, my first question is, what should they do actually in that moment? Because there's still a lot of employees falling prey to such attacks. And do you think organizations today are investing enough in defending against these AI-driven attacks?
Um, we had a kind of an incident which is very similar. Um, and he genuinely had a reason why he had to call. So when he did call, it was not the CEO, it was the CIO. When he did call, and it was an urgent matter, which didn't seem quite in the way of things that we normally do, I kind of had to tell him, I'm in the midst of something. Let me just give you a call back in half a second. Okay. So while his urgency was allied, I did call him back on a Teams call because everybody has Teams on their mobile, right? It's better that you call them back in any ways and means that you generally reach out to them. Even a normal call would have helped, but I prefer to call him on a Teams call for the simple reason it is my organization collaborative mechanism, a tool that we use, and Teams is installed in all mobiles, so it's as good as your mobile call. So this kind of authenticated the fact that he had called me genuinely. But there are many instances when such urgency comes, no, you don't stop to think, and we generally do get into the action mode. So this is where repeated trainings are required.
Yeah.
I'll just draw a parallel to your military force, right? If you had a commando training, right, you are trained repeatedly on the same scenario. Why? Because it becomes a muscle memory. Are we doing that extensive training today? No, because security in many cases is an afterthought, right? Even spending, I would like to take an example of Unilever, right? So before 15 years back, the importance of safety of a human being was absolute paramount because of the accident rates that they were facing in the plant. So they made it a culture. Any team meeting that you go into, the first 5 minutes you will spend on safety, whatever safety you spend 5 minutes. Today, you have to make that a culture in every organization. Safety, cyber safety, physical safety, any safety, food, you name it, and you can talk about anything. Safety is safety, right? And spending that 2 or 5 minutes, precious 5 minutes of your meeting time in a week is going to change the culture. And that's very important. And if the leaders address that requirement, you're setting the tone for the entire organization to follow, right? They
Yeah.
become curious. The first things I've seen one more thing, which is very good that happens in such kind of events is everybody comes on time to the meeting. When they know that they want to listen to that one safety briefing that you're going to get, and it's going to be delivered by a CEO or a CIO or whoever.
Yeah.
When your leaders talk and it is out of context of business, generally people are curious, and that somehow is a human tendency for something that we should be leveraging on.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into the another very important topic, which is FMCG, quick commerce, and D2C risks, right? Which, by the way, are the businesses booming in India, right? Let's do a quick rapid fire round. So this is something that we do with all our speakers. So I'm just going to ask you a bunch of rapid fire questions. You have to um, uh, like uh, answer in one word. Okay.
I'll do my best.
All right. So uh, Face ID or fingerprint?
Fingerprint.
Okay.
Face IDs do get, distorted over a period of time.
Yeah, yeah. And one word for AI in cybersecurity.
It's my friend so far.
Nice one. Most overrated security practice.
Um, I would say a password tenure, which many of the organizations still have a long tenure for password resets, a password lifecycle. That I think is a bit overrated. That I'm changing my password policy. This is my password policy. Even when my third parties come, I do tell them that you need to have a lower life cycle for the passwords.
Nice. At the most underrated one. Oh, most underrated security habit.
Mm, I would say I would like to call out two because both of them are very, very important. One is thinking that my compliance is equal to my security posture. My compliance posture is my security posture. No, it is not. With
Hmm.
that, why is that? Is because I can be compliant on outdated assets, but the most vulnerability comes from outdated assets. That is the reason why. Many of the organizations have around 87% in the recent one of the reports that I had read, 87% vulnerable systems, outdated system, end of life systems still in the asset list and
Hmm.
very much in use. No amount of layers of security will actually keep it safe. So compliance is not equal to security.
Got it. Email or WhatsApp scams, which worries you more?
Oh, this is a very good question. Honestly, I would go with WhatsApp. It transcends enterprises. Yes, WhatsApp.
Yeah. One app you trust the least with your data.
One app. Um, my password manager at this point in time on
Yeah,
my mobile. Yeah, I'm changing that. So
got it. Yeah. Um,
that is like
if
your, treasure hunt one chest which you hand over to anybody, just like that. So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I also think the same because we use this password manager, and I'm like, what if somebody gets hold of it? And
great.
yeah, I don't want to like think about it.
Right.
Yeah. And like a very important question, Meena, if you were not into cybersecurity, what career would you choose?
Um, my whole history, career has been somewhere about data management, enterprise data management, so on and so forth. So I would, if not in IT, I would have been in internal controls, which is process management.
Oh, nice. Uh, are you a night owl or early riser?
Early riser because it's a mandatory thing with kids going to school and college and things like
Yeah.
yeah. Otherwise, I'd prefer
Life
to
happens.
yes.
Cool. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Now going back to the very important topic, which is FMCG, quick commerce, and D2C risks. Um, these businesses are built on speed and convenience, right? As we all know it by now. But that often comes with a lot of trade-offs. From what you have seen, where does security typically get compromised in that race?
Um, See, while I say the way commerce is changing, right, to reach the end user, end customers in the quickest possible way, I would say if you are not resilient enough, if your IT systems are not resilient enough in the back end, and your digital trust is not enough in the front end. So if you've not balanced them both, the long run is always going to be very difficult to sustain, right? What is D2C? It is a massive amount of transaction growth, right? Massive. Uh, People who didn't want to opt for Blinkit, but Blinkit made so much of an advertisement that it gave you the wow factor of getting something on in 10 minutes. Everybody jumped into it. So did Domino's for that matter, right? The quick delivery of your pizza, which is hot, and if you didn't find it hot enough, then you get a refund. So adoptions become very quick in these cases. It's not a slow growth of
Yeah.
acquiring customers and consumers. Is your systems resilient enough that should one break, there's a fallback plan? So systems being resilient is very, very important. My front end is the fact that the data that I am providing to you, you're going to keep it with utmost trust. My digital trust is very, very important. Should somebody compromise, because when you're front end, many apps, when you self register, right, a lot of data is collected on the devices also. And there's caching and all that stuff. So if you've not paid attention to that and your system get compromised where they're able to exfiltrate this kind of a data, then you lose the trust of the consumer with your brand. Quality and other things I'll not talk about because today we are having a security discussion. So I'll keep it at, you know, having your front end, your back end very well integrated to handle those volumes and to keep your data safe and secure.
Got it. Yeah, and like any cyber threats that are particularly unique in these industries, quick commerce or FMCG, compared to other more
We did,
traditional
I
industries?
think we did have one of these incidents, at least in Bangalore, we did. The misuse of your Swiggy delivery guys, misusing your data, your order details, and collecting money from you, but not delivering it from the original place of where you ordered from, the restaurant or the cafe or where you ordered from. So when data is visible to them, how are the scenarios that they can misuse it for, right? So this has happened in the past and it will continue to happen because everybody tries to see how innovatively they can attack, right? It may be intentional, unintentional, for a minuscule monetary gain to a very vast one. Yeah, it happens. For them, keeping the maintaining the digital trust will be very, very important. It's of paramount importance, if you ask me. And with the law coming in, I must say, it's a very good thing because you are now going to be forced to mask certain data if it is not meant to be seen, right?
Yeah.
In call centers, you don't need to see the numbers that you're going to dial out. You just need to verify it against the last four digits which your number ends. So that's enough of a verification. You don't need to see the entire PAN card. You may want to do a voice recording to match the data which is masked behind, and it says yes, it is correct, and the verification symbol comes, and the caller is ready to proceed with the calls. So when your customer care, so in D2C, many of the times orders fail, product is deficient in its quality,
Yeah.
misdelivered, payment made but payment did not go through. I mean, you can. There are many things that comes to their desk, right? How do you keep that customer data safe and the players in between? The person who's answering the call, the person who's going to write back, the person who's going to make the delivery, the entire chain of how you service a customer will require a digital trust to be implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you were to advise, like as a information security officer, a fast going growing B2C brand today, uh, what would be that uh, uh, like first cyber security investment you would ask them to prioritize?
Uh, as much as possible, if you're a startup generally and you're coming into the space of B2C, as much as possible, do not use outdated freeware open source in your product design, especially on the IT side, because the next emerging threat is open source for AI. We call open weights. Okay, open sources for AI are one of the most vulnerable things that you can have in your product design, which enables you to do a particular service. Try to avoid them. That's one. For somebody who is moving into that space, already existing in some form in the business, and moving to that space, I would say build, like I said, build resilient systems, resilient processes. Don't make it person dependent, because human are the first victims, first targets for victimizing, right? Um, AI being the next threat vector, be cognizant of how it can get misused in transactional volume, and building the digital trust. Don't make privacy as a checklist. It has to be done both in spirit, it has to be done both at ground level.
Got it. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Uh, I have a question, Veena. So there's been a lot of conversation around privacy in India over the last few years. Uh, like from what you are seeing, like do Indian consumers actually care about privacy now? Like, are we just becoming more aware without really changing our behavior?
Um, I would take a context of our COVID scenario, right? Somewhere, most of us felt COVID is not going to happen to me, but somebody in the family was affected, right? And then you saw it is really, really right next door to me or right in my home. The
Yeah.
moment you kind of have that kind of an incident, um, you generally turn from being aware to being behavioral about it, being more cautious in the ways you do things. But there's a long way to go, at least for India. There's very small pockets of awareness today. Okay, I wouldn't go as far as saying even your enterprises are all that well aware. It's a few people fighting in their corners, trying to defend privacy in many ways. The HR teams are the first people who need to be educated because they handle people data. Well, in my organization, we also handle customer consumer data. So for that, for us, the marketing team, the entire chain of marketing team, right? The entire chain, when I say it's the people who are meeting the consumers, talking to them, and the people who are processing their data, and people who are storing their data for any analysis, those kind of things. So it feels like, there's more to do in every space. Okay. Um, for instance, not many of them are aware. Anybody's data whom you're collecting for below 18 years, parent consent is required. Many of the apps does not require parent consent. Like for instance, don't misquote me anywhere, but until now, it was Roblox is one of the games, right? And
Yeah.
it became very popular at one point in time. It did not require parental consent.
Hmm. Yeah.
It had payment gateways, so many things. So everywhere where you're consciously going to give away that kind of a data or you're storing it, as individuals, as employees, as citizens, also we have a responsibility how we handle them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was my question. I just wanted to know your like views around it. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it on the questions from my end. And now I would like to open the floor for our audience to drop in their questions. Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A section. Yeah, we have one question from Kusumita. In what ways can deepfakes be used to trick employees into revealing corporate information?
If you are in a competing kind of a company, right? We have a lot of competition with other brands in the beverage space. If I were being sponsored as a hacktivist, a threat actor, if I'm sponsored for a commercial espionage, I can impersonate looking at a social engineering protocol that I would have probably put in place to see your Facebook, to see your LinkedIn, and get as much data as possible. Suddenly, somebody whom you've not kept in touch in the very recent time, I impersonate that person because a lot of information is available. Whoever is close to you, I can even gather their information, right? So when I do that, I can compromise you into giving me that information. I'll give you a scenario. Look, I'm doing a market survey. I'm impersonating another person and I'm the victim. I'm doing a market survey. I just wanted to quickly see how many people are there in this area. Can you give me some of the contact details? And there you go. I trusted the person. I thought that he was, because it's generative AI era, right? And when you are talking, it's very conversational. They've already trained the person to respond the way your friend would have probably responded, and you tend to give away. If you didn't give away 100% data, you've already given away 10% of the data before your gut feel kicks in. Yeah, it has happened. It has happened in many cases during commercial espionages. It does happen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for answering that, Veena. I hope your question is answered, Kusumita. We have another question, Veena, from Zohar. Can you please mention as the Bella Padula model? I'm pretty sure you would have a better context. It's not read up and write down. If proper authentication is in place, why anyone is allowed to look up then his or her level?
I'm not familiar with this model. I would assume that it is related to AI. And what is authentication in place? Why nobody is allowed to look up? Then his. I didn't quite get the question honestly. I need a little more elaboration on that.
Yeah, Zohar, if you want to elaborate your question, please feel free to do that. We have another question. How do we know if it's in the Q&A section? So how do we know if our voice or face is being used without our knowledge in deepfakes?
I can't quite answer that question because I would really have to scout that in the dark web, right? And what goes in there, it's quite massive. What you can get out of sometimes is very, very interesting. Let me tell you, the amount of data that you can monetize. Earlier, without AI, some of the content which we have created, the images that were available, when social engineering was a very primitive way of attack, when they put that data together, right, it used to cost them a few $1,000s. Okay. Today, I can just record this particular session. I can make Priya look like Priya in another impersonation video because I've captured about an hour of your way of talking, right? I can make a video out of it in a freeware. So that's how real deepfakes are, and people capturing your video. Even Priya wouldn't know that I'm doing that. So I would go so far to say that, yeah, it is totally invisible the way data is getting captured these days.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for answering that. So yeah, that was the question. Yeah, Zohar has explained, he said it in CISSP. Zohar,
Let me come back to you, Zohar, on that one.
yeah. Kusumita has another question. There are some telltale signs for video deepfakes like unnatural blinking or unsynchronized lip movements. Are there any such telltale signs for audio deepfakes as well?
That's one of the things that we mentioned also. Audio deepfakes in wishing, right? Because you don't have a person's face in your presence, right? You can't quite say if the emotion is matching what they're saying. So visual deepfakes are a lot easier to catch if you are trained enough. But your wishing calls generally are a lot tougher. The remote attacks that we have generally in our call centers, um, the impersonation of our call centers, we've had a couple of those kind of incidents as well, and we weren't able to tell them apart if it was genuine or not genuine. So we weren't able to tell them apart. The best thing that you can do if you feel that they're asking you for money, they're asking you to come somewhere, or something which is very abnormal, something they wouldn't have asked you, you try to call them back. That's the first thing that you can do. That's your first line of defense.
Got it. Thank you, Veena. I hope that answered your question, Kusumita. Thanks for asking questions. If you folks have any other questions, feel free to, we still have 3 minutes. So if there's any question, feel free to drop them in the chat. If there are no further questions, I think we are right on time. Cool. I'll wait for a few more seconds to see if there are any questions, and then we can close the event. Yeah. Thanks for joining, everyone. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for joining in. And thanks again, Veena, so much for agreeing to do this webinar. We really wanted to speak to you, especially on the standpoint of FMCG and like India consumer perspective, right? We did a lot of webinars around B2B, but this was a very exciting and really insightful one. So thanks for agreeing to do it. And yeah, thanks again. Thank you everyone for joining in. I think we can close the session now. Any closing thoughts, Veena, before we wrap up?
Yes, I would just like to say thank you for being a wonderful audience and thanks for this opportunity. Security is not IT responsibility alone. It is your day-to-day, everyday vitamin S, if you would like to call it. Make that a part of your lives. It's for your safety, your family safety, for your loved ones, and for the enterprises that you're working for.
Perfect. I think that was the biggest takeaway from this session today, along with a lot of other great ones. So again, thank you everyone. We have shared Veena's LinkedIn profile uh, more than a few times in the chat. So if you want to connect with her, feel free to send her a request on LinkedIn. And Veena is also a part of our community. So if you want to be a part of our community, do feel free to apply via the link shared by my teammate Pratisha. And thanks everyone. Thanks for taking the time to attend. And thanks again, Veena, for doing this. With that, closing the event now. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Yeah, bye.